Hello and welcome back to the Project Management PrepCast, where we get you ready for all aspects of your PMI exam. I'm your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner. In this lesson, we reduce your exam anxiety, because with lower anxiety, you can improve your score. To do that, we review many aspects of the day of your exam. Just as if deploying your projects at work, you want to plan and prepare for your big day so that you minimize the chances that anything can go wrong. This includes walking through what you should do in case of emergencies. You find out what you should bring and what not to bring to the exam center. We go through the non-disclosure agreement that you agree to as part of taking an exam. We then spend some time explaining the exam timeline and providing highlights on the exam interface. And just to be clear, the lesson you are watching specifically discusses the processes surrounding the computer-based test. PMI also offers very rare instances where you can still take the exam as a paper-based test, but that situation is extremely unique, and so we do not cover that in this lesson at all. Before we start, I want to point out that it is an absolute must that you read the exam handbook. This lesson here covers a lot of the topics from the handbook, but not everything. So please read it to understand all the details on the exam policies as well as the exam procedures. The handbook is a truly invaluable resource. Each exam that PMI offers has its own handbook. The image that you see here on the right-hand side is the cover image of the PMP handbook. But of course, if you are studying for the CAPM, PMI ACP, or any other PMI exam, you would need to read the handbook of that particular exam. In this lesson, we cover the common aspects of all PMI exams, and it is not specific to any one certification. This is a very important topic. After all, the exam day is what all your hard work has been for. So we've broken the topic into two parts. Part 1 covers the actions you should take in the days running up to the exam, and in Part 2 we will cover the exam day itself and a few things to remember for after the exam. You will probably agree that the exam day is a big and important day. You have invested a lot of time and money getting to that point, and so it's not a good idea to wait until the night before to make a plan. After all, you are a project manager and you understand all about project risk management. So what are you going to do if your mother, father, son, daughter, husband, wife, or other close relative goes into the hospital the day before the exam? What happens if you get a flat tire, your car breaks down, you miss the bus, mistakenly get off at the wrong transit station, or if there is a major traffic jam? And are you sure that the Prometric Testing Center accepts your ID card? And what if you forget your eligibility letter at home? The point I'm trying to make is this. There is a lot that could go wrong on your exam day. It doesn't have to, but it could. That is why for projects, we project managers are so important. We anticipate what might go wrong and make plans accordingly. So why should your certification project be any different? There are hundreds of reasons why you might need to reschedule your exam, and PMI has rules and fees for rescheduling. Here they are. If you reschedule your exam 30 or more calendar days before the exam, then everything is fine. There is no fee to be paid. You can just do the rescheduling. If you need to reschedule your exam within 30 calendar days before the exam, then you have to pay a $70 rescheduling fee. And unfortunately, if anything happens within 2 calendar days of your exam, then you cannot ask for your exam to be rescheduled. At this point in the timeline, you can only cancel your appointment, and you will also forfeit the entire exam fee that you have paid. Later on, you can then schedule a new exam, but you will have to pay the re-examination fee. So this is expensive, and therefore it is quite important that you understand what exactly PMI means by 2 calendar days prior to the exam. Here you see your exam day on the right and the 3 days leading up to it to the left. When PMI says 2 calendar days prior, they don't mean 48 hours. They mean actual calendar days. I'll walk you through it. On the day of your exam, you can only cancel your appointment and you will forfeit the entire exam fee. Same thing on calendar day 1 before the exam. You can only cancel your appointment and you will forfeit the entire exam fee. And again on calendar day 2 before the exam, you can only cancel your appointment and you will forfeit the entire exam fee. Only once you get to calendar day 3 or more before the exam is when you have the opportunity to pay $70 in order to reschedule your appointment. In conclusion, once you are within 2 calendar days of your exam, it gets expensive and you should really go through with it. Unless there are what PMI calls extenuating circumstances. PMI understands that there may indeed be extenuating circumstances that are beyond your control that force you to reschedule your exam. They have a set of policies in place to address it. However, we are talking about real emergencies here. These are items that are out of your control, such as medical emergencies, military deployments, deaths or illness in the family, and natural disasters. If any of these happen to you, then go ahead and reschedule your exam date. When you do, you are still going to have to pay your rescheduling fee based on the date window you are in. However, because of your extenuating circumstances, you can then send an explanation with supporting documentation, like a doctor's report, to PMI and request a refund. If the emergency happens in the 2 days before your test, or you are unable to get to the testing center, then you are considered to be a no-show. If that happens, then it is up to you to contact PMI customer care within 72 hours with the explanation and supporting documentation, and they will review your case. As always, this is explained in the exam handbook in case you need more details. And here is a very important statement. PMI makes it quite clear that they do not accept work-related circumstances as a valid reason for issuing a refund to reschedule or cancel your exam. Work emergencies are not considered extenuating circumstances. And what you see here is the exact phrase from the handbook. It is bolded and it includes an asterisk at the beginning and at the end. They are really serious about this. Therefore, coordinate with your boss when scheduling your exam and make sure they understand this, because if they suddenly want you to work on your exam day and you have to cancel, then I would personally ask them to pay the re-examination fee. In fact, my recommendation is that you take the day off. By taking the day off, you are removing that additional level of stress from your plate. This allows you to focus on your exam without having to worry about important meetings that take place right before or after your exam. Plus, it gives you some time to celebrate your new credential afterward. And now for the exam itself. You have done a lot of studying, spent a lot of money, and scheduled your exam. So you also want to make sure that you are ready to sit for the test. And this includes getting used to taking tests and understanding the user interface. This is especially true if you have not taken multiple choice tests for a while. So in order to show you what the exam is generally like, I'm going to now switch over to my browser and I'm going to fire up my PM Exam Simulator in order to explain some exam user interface features to you. Here we are. This is the PMP version of our simulator, but don't let that worry you, because we're not really interested in the questions themselves, but in the user interface. The user interface we have in the simulator, obviously not 100% like the exam itself. We're interested in the common navigational elements. So I'm going to start one of the 4 exams here at random. PMP Exam 3 I'm starting here, and we click on the Start button, and then make this full screen, and also zoom in a little bit so that it becomes more easy to see. So what I'll do now with you is I'm going to go counterclockwise around here, starting at the top left, where you can see that this exam has a countdown timer of 4 hours, just about 4 hours left, and we're currently on question 1 of 200. Down here on the left, we have the big End Exam button, and when I click on that one, our system tells you, hey, are you sure? Do you really want to do this? Do you really want to end the exam? And if you don't want to, simply hit the Go Back button. The bottom right, we have currently just a Next button because this is the first question, so there is no previous. But if I hit Next, then as you can see, I am now on question 2, and there is a previous button. I'm just selecting a answer here at random. I'm hitting Next again, and I'm now on question 3, and again I'm just choosing a question at random. If at any time I'm thinking, I think it's B, but I'm not 100% sure, could be C, then that's what the Mark button is for. When I click on the Mark button, this question is now marked for later review. And when I go to the next question here, and I come back again, the question is still marked for review, so that I have a quick visual clue here showing me that yes, you wanted to review that question. This becomes especially interesting when you look at the show grid. When we click here on the show grid button and we look at the grid, okay, this is now a little bit too big, so let me make this smaller again so everything fits onto the screen. This is an overview screen where you can easily see the status of each of the 200 questions here in this particular exam. I can easily see that this one here is marked. I can see that this one is answered. The legend is down here at the bottom. I even have some filtering options here. But the most important thing is here I can jump to any question directly. So I can click here on question, let's pick 18. I can go to question 18 and I'm right there where I wanted to be. I'm making this bigger again. Voila. All right. And yes, the center contains the main question here in this gray box. And as you have seen me do, selecting the answer that I want is as simple as just pointing and clicking right here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can change your opinion as many times as you would like. There is one more feature that the real exam also has. Let me go to the next one here to show you this, and that is you can right click. If you are 100% sure A is incorrect, you can right click on it, and you see it's now strike through. I can do the same for this, and I can do the same for this, and go, yeah, okay, now I know D is the correct one. If I change my mind, I right click again, and C is no longer strike through. And that's it for our brief demo. Please remember that the exam simulator that you saw just now, it has a different design, colors, look and feel than what the exam interface will be like. But even though the buttons look different and are not in the exactly same location, the features are the same. And that's what I wanted to show you. So getting used to the screen and types of questions in particular is a major part of reducing your anxiety and increasing your score. And by the way, I'm not mentioning the exam simulator here to sell you another one of my products. Instead, this is because it is the #1 reason for people being unprepared. They learn all the material and then get thrown off by the question style on the exam or not having used a tool like this. So please, I really don't care what simulator you use, but at a minimum, use my free exam simulator for 7 days and get a taste of the exam. So, what else can go wrong? Well, a number of things. However, like any good project manager, you are prepared for Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong, right? Here are some of the problems that we have gathered from our customers. Processes change. Don't think what you hear right now in this lesson and read in the handbook is written in stone. PMI and Prometric change how they do things. We try and keep up with the changes, but at times, PMI just doesn't tell us in advance. Also, even though test centers are supposed to be the same, they all follow slightly different rules. In one case, one of our students was not allowed to leave the exam room, except for emergencies, and going to the bathroom wasn't considered to be an emergency, at least not to the testing center administrator. Or maybe they tell you that you are not allowed to wear any jewelry when you technically are allowed to wear a wedding band or an engagement ring. Or maybe your testing center doesn't have any lockers and you have to leave all your belongings in the car. And what if traffic is heavy and you are delayed? What if your car breaks down? What if one of your kids gets sick that day? Well, the list is endless. The thing is, you really won't know the exact processes and issues until the day when you arrive. Yes, all testing centers should be following the same procedures, but they are just human and things may be different in each center. Here's what you need to do. Breathe in, breathe out. Stay cool and stay calm. These process changes are really not what counts. Go with the flow, accept the changes, work with the new rules and regulations, adjust to them and work with them. That's what project managers do, and then go and pass your exam. But you can reduce the problems you could have with a little bit of planning. You could just show up at the testing center and hope for the best, but that's probably not the best plan. Here are a couple of tips that might help. Plan a trip to the testing center, not on the day of the exam, but exactly 1 week to the day and hour prior to your exam. If you are driving to the appointment, you can get familiar with the turns, traffic jams, parking, and the myriad of other hassles that might come up. If you're going by other public transit, understand your transfers, where the stops are and how much walking you need to do. Whether taking car or transit, you don't want to do a 500-meter sprint to get to the front door and forget all that you've learned. And if you're really nervous about the gauntlet that PrepCast puts you through just to get to the testing station, you can always take what they call their test drive. You can find more about this at prometric.com/PMI. This is literally a walkthrough of checking in and doing everything that you will be doing on the exam day, minus taking the actual exam. This way you can drive or commute to the center in traffic, maybe a week or 10 days before, find parking, locate the entrance, and be in the exact same environment with other test takers. PrepCast treats you as if you are a real test taker from the moment that you walk in the door. By doing this, you know the check-in process, what the waiting area looks like, how to access the lockers, and experience the tension while you are waiting, so you don't freak out when you get there in a week from now for your real exam. You see how they prove that your pockets are empty. You may have to roll up your sleeves and maybe pull up your pant legs, have your eyeglasses, jewelry, and other accessories inspected, and go through the metal detector to check for any contraband. You can also sit at a workstation, hear the noise level, and know whether to bring foam earplugs. You can see the type of scratch paper and confirm that they give you 2 pencils. Lastly, you can ask questions about the desktop tools like calculators and their old-fashioned manual calculators. Some of our students have taken it and they loved it. At the time of recording this lesson, the test drive did cost $30. The test drive, by the way, has nothing to do with PMI. You need to check the PrepCast website for more details. Preparing yourself like this properly is one of the best things you can do. It is also good to know that PMI offers accommodations for disabilities and you can order them when you are scheduling. And while PMI is more than willing to accommodate exam delivery for those using wheelchairs, for example, these special accommodations must be requested at the time of exam payment and documented before you schedule your exam attempt. If your accommodation needs change after you have scheduled the exam without requesting anything previously, then you have to get in touch with PMI and PrepCast right away to request this and update your scheduled exam. PMI will not allow a wheelchair or similar during exam delivery if special accommodations have not been requested and approved. So you have enough to worry about on exam day. Make sure that any arrangements for special accommodations are dealt with ahead of time. Prometric claims that regardless of a test taker's disabilities and challenges, they aim to test on a level playing field. The types of accommodations that they list on their website include extra time, using a separate room, having an oversized chair, noise buster headsets, even a left-handed mouse is available, anti-glare screens or screen magnifiers. It may even include permission to bring personal items into the testing room for medical purposes, such as food, drink, eye drops, medication or other devices. And there is more. If you have a particular requirement, go to the Prometric website or contact them directly to find out what accommodations are possible for you. And so it's finally here. It's the day of your exam. What should you do? Well, first of all, forget about work. You have taken the day off. Remember, we just talked about this a few minutes ago. Don't look at your email. Focus on your test. Also, get a good night's sleep. I know this is easier said than done, but remember that you have studied long and hard and that you really know your stuff. You are prepared to take this exam. And lastly, don't eat exotic foods, because that's what I did. In fact, I did not take the day off either. Big mistake. So I'd arrive at the office in the morning and I'm working. My exam was at about 2:30 in the afternoon, and then my boss goes and invites everybody out to lunch. We went to a Chinese restaurant, normally no problem for me, but I had to try something new on the menu. That didn't go well. After about an hour or so into my exam, I started to feel queasy, really bad. No problem, didn't have to throw up or anything like that, just not feeling well. There was a fog in my head, and it just didn't work well. By the time the 3-hour mark came along, I was thinking to myself, you are going to fail this exam. And finally, with 2 minutes to spare, I was able to hit end exam and passed the exam. That was lucky, okay? I'm not saying don't eat Chinese food. I'm saying exotic foods in the sense of something that you have never tried before and don't know how you react to it. So be sensible. And here are your takeaways for part 1. Plan for the worst and assume that everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Plan for how you would handle it and detail your contingencies. Take some practice exams. At a minimum, take the free exam simulator. Visit the Prometric testing facility and possibly take their test drive. This way there are fewer unknowns and you will feel more confident. Take the day off on your exam, and the night before your test, get rest and, well, eat sensibly. Rest up. Until next time.